All right, welcome to the Sustainability Strategy Summit. Today's interview is with Dr. Andrea Hicks, the Interim Director for Sustainability Education and Outreach at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. She's also an assistant professor in the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. Welcome, Andrea. I'm so pleased to have you here today. Will you start with telling us a little bit more about you and about your background?
Yes, I'd be happy to. But first, thank you for having me today. I appreciate this opportunity to chat and talk a little bit about what we do.
Great. You know, we work with businesses so often, so I think it's just interesting for our base to hear what's going on the education level. So happy to have you.
Right. So my background's in engineering. I have engineering degrees in civil and environmental engineering from a variety of places. And it really started because I was curious about the world, you know. And the more I learned, that my bigger question was thinking about the environmental impacts of everything we do, from the clothes we wear to the food we eat to how we get different places. And that led me to working in the area of the environmental impacts and sustainability implications of emerging technologies.
Interesting.
So, like what's emerging, right? So
Mhm.
emerging is either things that are brand new or things that are old but we don't use a lot. So a couple examples might be like engineered nanomaterials are something newer, or autonomous vehicles. And the older things are things like aquaponics, where we have closed loop food production systems. And so those have been around actually for quite a while, but they're not our main way of producing food. So those are the ones that are, well, they're not widely deployed, but let's think about the environmental impacts before these things are widely deployed so we can have a better sense of what they might look like and things we need to be aware of and maybe things we need to fix.
Yeah, that's so cool. Honestly, I think your question really is something on the minds of a lot of sustainability professionals, like understanding what the impact is. That's like the crux of what we all do and what we want businesses to understand on a deeper level. So let's talk about that a little bit more. Can you share more about your research in sustainability and how do you look at environmental impacts in your research?
Great, that's an excellent question. So we use tools such as life cycle assessment. And life cycle assessment, it's a systematic tool for looking at the environmental impacts of a product or process throughout its life cycle. And then typically people go, oh, so what is that? So if you've ever heard of like a carbon footprint, right? So most folks
Yep.
have, that's
Yeah.
how you get it. It's looking at the different portions of a product's lifetime. So we usually look at raw materials. So maybe it's things that you're mining and refining and getting from the ground or harvesting from the world, manufacturing, use, and end of life. So end of life is, what do we do when we're done? Do we recycle it? Does it go to a landfill? And we look across the whole life cycle to say, okay, well, what are the environmental impacts? And that helps us understand too, well, where could we reduce the environmental impacts? And then where are there places where we don't expect them?
Yeah, that's so interesting. So, okay, life cycle analysis is definitely something I've heard of. I'm sure many sustainability professionals have. From your experience, do you see a lot of businesses using this technology right now? Or doing life cycle analysis?
So it's interesting, life cycle assessment actually came out of industry.
Okay.
What's often considered the first study was actually from the Coca-Cola company in 1969, where they were looking at the materials for packaging their soft drinks.
Mm.
So it has really excellent roots in in industry, and particularly in manufacturing. If you think about how we have these stages of like raw materials and manufacturing.
Yeah, interesting. So, I'm going to have to do my own research to know how many manufacturers in Wisconsin are actually doing this. I definitely know of a handful, but I think it's a tool small to medium-sized manufacturers could probably use more. And so, when you go through this process, what do you typically find, or what happens with the findings that you get?
And so it depends on the project. Some of the projects we work on are really accessible, like questions about the environmental impact of my morning coffee or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And those are really excellent because they help people make decisions. And so that you're trying to disseminate widely. Things like, and there's a fairly I was teaching about this in my class the other night. There's a popular study on Christmas trees. And so every year people wonder, should I have an artificial tree or should I have a real tree if I'm trying to be sustainable? And the Christmas Tree Association funded a study a handful of years ago that said, okay, well, I'd have to keep my artificial tree for so many years in order to make this work. And those are questions that people ask, though. They ask the paper or plastic bags question, or should I bring my reusable mug? So those are the ones that are really fascinating because you get to work with people who have questions.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some of our other stuff is working more with farmers or industries.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we have a project where we work with aquaponics producers across the state. So aquaponics, it's combining hydroponics and aquaculture. So you have fish grown in captivity, and essentially the water from the fish goes and fertilizes plants that are grown in a soilless environment. The plants take the nutrients out, and it goes back to the fish. And so some of our farmers have questions of, well, what's the biggest environmental impact of what I'm doing? Or I'm thinking about looking at different feed sources for my fish. How does that change my environmental impact? How does my environmental impact compare to like terrestrial protein sources like beef?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always
Yeah.
really exciting.
Great. Yeah. I mean, so I can see how useful of a tool this is, right? And so in the university setting, then are you partnering with industries to work on life cycle assessments with them, or how does that partnership work, or what does that look like for you?
Right. So we have a variety of ways we work together. We've worked in places like our Madison wastewater treatment, our Madison sewage district, to look at some of their nutrient removal technologies. And so we were working directly with them because they had questions. So
Great.
sometimes folks that they have questions and we're interested in them. And sometimes it's more things of, well, we have a question because no one is looking at it right now. So it depends, but there's a variety of ways we work with folks.
Okay. And so how do these partnerships usually come out? Is there a particular office in the university that seeks these partnerships, or do they come to you? Or I'm just thinking about businesses listening, and if they, might have a project idea or want some support around this, can they reach out to you?
That would be great. So
Mhm.
historically, it's been one-on-one conversations. But now with my role as interim director for education and research for campus sustainability, it'd be wonderful to work with the office.
Mm.
We have interns at the office who work on campus sustainability, but we also have classes that are looking for real world projects
Mm.
because it's beneficial for them from a learning standpoint, but also for companies because it's a lower cost way to get some of this information.
Yeah, at least get their feet wet with the process, right? And really start to see how it could benefit them. It's a kind of a low hanging fruit option. I love that. Okay, so in the email that we send out with this interview, we'll make sure to include information on how folks can get in touch with you in that office.
Yes, that'd be excellent.
Great. Any other examples come to mind of how this work helps businesses make decisions?
Right. So it helps businesses make decisions in a variety of ways. So there's some companies that have fairly well established programs in life cycle assessment. So one way, and really where you come with the origins, is reducing energy costs. And so energy is expensive. And often life cycle assessments would identify where you have a lot of energy consumption. Also, it helps businesses make decisions, particularly if you're looking at two alternatives, right? And maybe there's cost parity or the cost is a little bit different. And to think about the environmental impact embedded in those products or processes can help make a decision. There's also a marketing standpoint too, right? Where consumers are becoming more environmentally conscious and they want to understand the environmental impact of the goods they're buying.
Absolutely. So being able to share that with their clients offers them the ability to be more transparent about their process and really share that information with the customer. Yeah, that's a great example. So, okay, I know that you mentioned you're working with the Office of Sustainability, and that sustainability on campus is growing. What are you focusing on from a campus perspective at Madison?
Right. So, on a campus perspective, currently we're working on our STARS report. And so, STARS, you could think about it similar to LEAD for universities. And every so many years, we file our report and get our rating. And there's different ratings of silver and gold and platinum, very much like LEAD. And we're working currently right now to file our second STARS report, which helps us assess the sustainability activities of our campus.
Okay.
And some of those activities are things like campus is a living laboratory. So we have this large, vibrant campus, and it's a place not only for students to learn firsthand with some of the unique things we have here, to also think about things like research projects that could be coupled with faculty to improve campus sustainability, but try out new technologies. So it's really thinking of campus as this living, breathing opportunity for research and learning. We also have other things like we just published our first campus sustainability map, which is available on our
Awesome.
website.
Okay.
So you could have your own sustainability walking tour if you
Cool.
happen to be in the Madison area, which is really
Okay. We should include that link also.
um, yeah, and we've been busy with all sorts of things during the pandemic. We have a campus green fund, which is student-led projects to improve campus sustainability where they submit proposals. And so that has helped fund things like solar panels in the past for campus. Or our campus, all of the dormitories have low flow toilets. And so that helped fund that project in the past. So it's these student led projects where they come up with an idea and have the passion for it. And we just help them along the way.
Super cool. So a lot of those students that work on those projects, are they from different degree programs, or do you see any trends in those students' engagement and where they're coming from?
So this last round, we had quite a few from business.
Okay.
But historically, they're from all over campus, from business to engineering to the liberal arts. And, and often they're multidisciplinary teams. So students see something that could be helped on campus and they have this idea. And then they work with our excellent Green Fund manager to refine their ideas into something achievable, which is really exciting. We also have an undergraduate internship program at the Office of Sustainability, where we have about 15 undergraduate students from a variety of backgrounds who work for a year-long internship on different campus sustainability facets. So, for example, we have a green athletics team, which is, working with student athletes to green some of their experience. We have a BIPOC podcast, Voices podcast and sustainability. So we have students who are really learning about professional sustainability skills, and campus is their laboratory to do it.
Yeah, I love that concept because it's taking it, well, not only is it education for them, but it's experiential, right? They get to create project ideas, go through a process that might be more relevant in their career. They're developing different types of skills, promoting their ideas, sharing their ideas, getting a buy-in across stakeholder groups. So what a great experience for them overall. And is there a general or a larger goal for the living laboratory long term?
Um, it's really to expand the number of faculty and students who take part in it. So we have tremendous opportunities on our campus for student learning, and then also for research and deploying and being a test bed for new technologies. And the question is, how do we do it?
Yeah.
We're fortunate at the University of Wisconsin-Madison because we're large. We're a small city. And that gives us this opportunity to innovate in new areas. Right now, too, we also have students that are interacting with sustainability because we have a sustainability course attribute.
What does that mean?
Right. So course attributes you could think of them as like tags in a system.
Okay.
So we have ones for like graduate courses, right, to separate them from undergraduate courses. And this is that some of the learning objectives covered in the course are focused on sustainability. And these courses, could be everything from an English course that has a significant focus on sustainability to an engineering course. And so that helps students sort through courses who are like, I'd really like to take something in this area in sustainability.
Okay. Okay. Kind of like helps them prioritize which courses might get the most, they might get the most out of and help them develop some of their passion inside of what they're already working on.
Right.
Great. So I'm gonna throw another question out at you. As a professor, I'm curious with your students, what do you hear? What are some of the most interesting questions that you're hearing from students around sustainability? Where is their mind at? What are they asking about in terms of, the future or current state of things?
So they really would like more experiential learning around sustainability. So I teach a community-based learning course in environmental engineering called Sustainability Engineering. And we've partnered with the university here for several years.
Okay.
Um, and as a community-based learning course, the students are essentially doing their term project with the community. So the way university year works is communities apply with things that they want help with. Hey, we're having this issue. Do you think someone could help us with it? And you're asked if you would like to participate. And so for several years now, I've replaced our typical term project that every engineering class has with community-based learning projects. And the reflections from the students are always so positive. They're always so excited that they get to apply sustainability in the context of engineering in a hands-on way with real-world constraints. So now it's not just like this project they're doing for me, it's actually a community partner that they're working with.
Right.
And they're really excited always.
Yeah, it's a real project, right? It feels more real than something made up and tangible, and they get to build relationships again through that. So that's really cool. So I'm curious what advice you might have for any sustainability professionals out there and or students looking to transition into a career in sustainability for how to, kind of take what we talked about, this living laboratory idea and or LCAs out into the world and sort of, either look at their impact in a new way or, decrease the negative environmental impact that maybe their organization is having.
Right. And so I would say first, if you're looking to work within your organization, you need to find allies. And they might not be allies that necessarily work in the area of sustainability, but it might be someone with a passion for it. Or it might be someone, who's been working on a particular product and says, I have real questions about this. And I think could you help me? So I've always found that there are lots of passionate people who really would love to help work on a life cycle assessment or have some interest or have the data that they could help you with, but they don't know how, and that's a little bit daunting. And so those are often just really passionate, exciting people who, are great partners in this.
Absolutely. And you don't know if you don't ask, right?
Right. And I mean, in terms of looking for how to drive impact in the organizations, I mean, there's that. And there's the understanding too of meeting people where they are. So, if your company makes product X, well, they'll probably always make product X. But how do you make product X more sustainably? How do we think about, our working conditions around making product X? And so I think there's tremendous opportunity. And right now, particularly for students and professionals who are looking to transition to a sustainability type position, I think there's a lot of opportunity, particularly as people are more concerned about things like climate change. It's my perception, at least, that more companies are hiring in this area.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the awareness is growing for sure. And, I really appreciate your perspective on this. As an engineer, I have a design background. So it's kind of like together, it's kind of the perfect way for designing and engineering products of the future that can really still have tremendous impacts on our lives and have a good environmental footprint. And it doesn't mean, we need to blow up all the products and we're making. It's just how can we look at them in a new way? And maybe it's, using a different material to your point, or maybe it's, designing some different type of functionality in it for reuse, or so it doesn't end up in a landfill, kind of that whole cradle to grave concept. So I love that you're working with engineering students and having them think about all of this and weaving sustainability into your courses. So awesome. Any last words or thoughts you want to share?
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to talk about the excellent things we're doing at UW-Madison.
Great. Well, like I said, we will follow up in the email and put some of these links that we talked about today, so folks can reach out to you and kind of go on that campus tour if they're going to be in Madison at all this summer or at any point in the future. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, and thanks again.
Great, thank you.